Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. My name is Rodrigo Graciano, and among my friend Chandra, we're going to be presenting refactoring a Java application. So I'm a Java champion. I'm a director of engineering at the Bank of New York Mellon. I'm part of the JCPC. Thank you very much.
Thank
very
you.
Nice.
I have very similar traits, so I'm not going to repeat everything Rodrigo just said. Hi, we are excited to present this, and we've done it a few times before. We keep it interactive between ourselves, and we request that you also interact with us. Ask questions, stop us, heckle, whatever you need to do, right? This needs to be interactive for us all to get a learning experience out of it. That includes us. Awesome.
And one of the things that I like to do when I present it with Chandra is just change the script.
Entirely on me, all the time.
And put him in a bad spot. So that's what I'm going to do right now.
It's like all of a sudden, it's just like I'm busy showing what we've scripted out as a presentation. I'm just like, I'm ready, Rodrigo, bring it. And then also it's like he throws a curveball and says, hey, can you do this? And I'm like, oh.
So why not, right?
What are you up to today?
Can you create a new class?
I can create a new class. Can the audience help me create a new class?
All right, I need your help, okay? Java, we're going to create a Hello World class, okay? So create a Hello World class. I mean, what do I need? What is the minimum that I need to have to create a Hello World? Can you help me out? All right.
Okay, so I first need a class name, I guess. So I am going to create a hello class because I'm lazy. I don't like to type out a hello world. Okay, what do I do next?
And next is that public
static void main. I have shortcuts for that. Thank you, IntelliJ. And
all right.
In here, I'll probably put a system out println to print a hello Devnexus.
That's good. Hello world. Hello Devnexus. All right. Should be all we need, right? We'll have a package. We'll have a class.
Can everyone see the code back there as well? Code's visible? Awesome.
All right. So I did that just to show how Java is changing. There are new features introduced on Java 21.
Yes.
And I think it's still, it was a final feature on 21, or I think it's still changing on 22.
It's available on 22, so there you go.
We don't need all this boilerplate code anymore. So what if I said that we don't need the public, the static?
Let's ask the audience this way, right? Instead of that, what is the purpose of a public static here? Can anyone tell me why we use a public static void main? What is the meaning of the word public and static? I mean, all of you are Java developers and you've written this code, but have you ever sat down and wondered why they exist? Why does it have to be public? Easy answer, come on. Why does it have to be public? Accessible outside, thank you. Why does it have to be static? You don't have to instantiate, and if your first entry point needs to be instantiated, it's a chicken and egg problem. So you obviously need a static. But that is so obvious. And if it's so obvious, do I even need to mention it? I get rid of it, right?
All right.
And then, oh, by the way, here's Billy. Billy, raise your hand. Hi, he's the person I was referring to earlier, whose talk is amazing. All right, so we get rid of that. We don't need that anymore because it's obvious. It looks better.
Chandra, I see we have a string args there, but we're not doing anything with that. Do we need it?
I don't know. Let's delete it. Whatever. Oh, what did I do?
No.
Okay, so the HDMI cable is messing with my shortcuts. Sorry.
Okay.
So I don't need that.
Void main string out println hello Devnexus.
It looks good, right?
Looks better? Why if I say that we don't need to declare a class anymore?
Why do I need the class?
Will you believe me? Thank you.
Does this code work?
Hands up. Who thinks this code is not going to work? Who thinks it's not going to work? All right.
It does work. So that is how we wanted to start the talk. And this is new with Java. Java is amazing, as usual, but it is getting even more amazing with time. So here's some cool features that we're going to talk about. And I guess, if you don't mind, can I just do a quick walkthrough of
Yeah, sure.
what our project is?
Yeah.
So what we decided to do is we wrote a conference app because there are no conference apps in the world, you know, and we're geniuses. No, we wrote a conference app because it could cover all the use cases that we're trying to come up with. And the way we did this is there's a conference with 50 speakers who are randomly selected from a pool, and I'll show you how it works. And there are 50 sessions, obviously, so one speaker, one session, not like us, so we never qualify for this conference. And then there are about 1,000 attendees. And instead of me just talking about it, let me just show you a quick picture, which will make it much more easier to understand. So let me minimize this. And this is our conference app. The conference app has attendees, it has speakers, staff, and vendor sponsors. It's like a typical Java project, right? And then the attendees themselves, there can be alumnus attendees, alumni. And then you get speakers. Speakers are associated with sessions, and speakers get t-shirts, okay? Staff get hats. So that's something like you'll find in normal conferences, there's some swag given out to different folk. Everybody gets a badge, an ID, a lanyard badge. And then vendors and sponsors are associated with booth. This is all fine. And in the future, we want to expand our app. Just like in a real world project, you have to expand stuff. In the future, we're expanding staff to be admin, security, front desk, etc., as different kinds of staff options we have. That's our project. Would you like to add something about it?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. So let's do a quick walkthrough of the project itself. And this code is available on GitHub for any of you who want to experiment with this yourself. Right? So we wrote an app with there are two modules. One is a Java 8 module, and the other is a Java 22 module. You can use the Java 8 module and convert it yourself as well, or you can just refer to the Java 22 code if you are in a hurry. Okay, so we have an app, and this is where the crux of the code is. And we just saw void main, which we'll fix towards the end, just as a closure. And we basically are creating an attendee email and a speaker email that is indented. So we want to show some string formatting. And then we have how to determine the number of shirts we get. The speakers have different sizes. So some may get a large shirt, some may get a medium shirt. And then we calculate these. And we randomize all this. And I'll show you how we randomize as well. And then we have hat counts, the number of hats. Again, hats are of different sizes. And we calculate how we order the hats. And then we have payment invoicing, where we cover, I guess if you're using a credit card, if you use an American Express, MasterCard, there's different commission fee that gets charged. And we calculate the total commission that we'll be sort of paying our credit card companies. And we have a raffle. We select a random winning session, and we cover all this, and this is how the application runs. So I'm just going to quickly run through the app real good, just to show the output so folk are aware.
Make sure that everything works.
And everything works. We've embarrassed ourselves on the stage many times, so we're used to this. If it fails, we will know. Okay, so a lot of output is produced, and this output is just to show you what is eventually covered in this app, right? So we're not going to go through everything. We'll just show you some parts of it. So there's a conference, and we call it the Mars Developer Summit, and it happens on Mars. And the nickname is MDS, and it happens on Elysium Planitia, which is a plateau on Mars. And then we have staff. We have 50 staff, we have 50 speakers, and 1,000 attendees, and I'm not going to scroll and list out all the attendees themselves. But, and then we have some 50 vendor sponsors in here. And what we do is every speaker gets a session, and these are the session titles, and they're all randomly generated. And I can quickly show you, we use what is called a faker. Faker is a library that allows you to fake a lot of things, including names, including numbers. You can throw a lot of things at it, and Faker takes care of all of those, and that's what we use to build this. So here's our Faker, and the Faker is used to seed staff, sessions, vendors, attendees, sizes of hats, sizes of shirts, everything comes from here. Okay, going back to what we ran is, let me just quickly go through the 50 sessions, and below that, we get our attendee email, which is non-indented. You can notice that it begins over here, and then we have an indented speaker email that we'll cover later. And the number of shirts to order, the number of hats to order, and the number of badges we get. It's always going to be a total of 1225 because that's how we randomized it. So 50 speakers, 1,000 attendees, 25 staff, and 150 vendor sponsors. And then we have random winners and a raffle. That is what the whole application does so far. Take it off from there.
All right, so how do we convert that to a newer version of Java?
That's our challenge now. So we have this entire app, and just to prove that it is in Java 8, let's take a quick look at our form XML file. This is a Java 8 app, and it does say the Maven compiler source and the Maven compiler target are set to 8. There are much better ways of doing this, and we'll go through everything along. So the way we're going to work this is there are, if you notice, fixed me's in the code. And when you go back to your own desk and you're trying to do this yourself, you can use these fixed me's. You can set up IntelliJ to show different colors for different to-dos, and this is one of the to-dos you can configure in IntelliJ. And we use this heavily. So we have fixed me's in the code. And if any of you is interested in sort of configuring the fixed me's, talk to us after the session. We'll help you out. So we have fixed me's, and the way we look at all the fixed me's is since they are to-dos, they all list up in your to-do box in IntelliJ. And we have a total of about 11 or 12 to-dos that we're going to cover, and we're going to take turns doing this, hopefully. Right. So I'm not the only person who's going to embarrass himself. We give him a chance to do that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Appreciate it. All right, so I'm going to first start with the Maven part of it, because Maven is something I'm very passionate about. A lot of our projects in the corporate world use Apache Maven as a build tool. And that's where you first start when you're converting your application or upgrading to a more modern version of Java.
Who's using Maven here?
Nice.
Okay, more than half.
So just a shameless plug, we also have an Apache Maven talk at 5 o'clock today.
Yes.
3:14, just not mentioning it. Anyways, so the way we'll work this is there are a few fixed me's, and we'll go in a numerical order. So I'm going to start with fixed me 0 first, obviously. And in the Maven POM file, you will notice that you have either in the properties or under the Maven compiler plugin, you specify the version of Java. And when you use more, modern versions of Java, you don't have to use Maven compiler source and Maven compiler target. Instead, you can replace it with Maven release source. You can replace it with Maven compiler release, which covers both the source target and also a boot class path for you. So you get more options with that. We're going to leave it like that for now. I'll show you an even better way to do it. So the first change we do is we convert this to 22, and we convert our target to 22 as well. And there is a reason I'm showing you this, is in some projects, instead of setting it as a property, folk do set it on the Maven compiler plugin itself. And there is a reason for you to do this, especially when you want your compiler arguments to be set, which is something you do in your compiler plugin and not in the properties. That's one of the reasons why you would actually go fix it in the plugin itself instead of on the properties. So I'm going to fix that as well to 22. And I'm going to uncomment what is asked to be uncommented here, which says uncomment the enable preview. Enable preview is one of the flags that the Java command line supports, and it allows you to access the preview features in that particular version of Java. And for any of you know what preview features are? Anyone help me out? No idea? Okay, please.
Yeah, so the preview features are like non-production ready, but something that we can try to give feedback to the JDK, right?
Okay.
That's correct. Oh.
They are production, so preview features are production ready. It just means the API is not yet settled.
So now everyone knows the difference. So they are production ready, but the API behind it is still not concrete or baked enough that it continues in the next versions of Java. And we'll cover some of that challenge as we go along with this.
Yeah, you're going to see that the past releases from Java since Java 10, the preview features were since Java 10 or later? Preview features.
Preview. Where they introduced,
preview.
I think it was 10.
Around 10. So that was a way to gather feedback from that before it was like a final version. So we need to have this flag enable preview if you want to use that. So that happened with many features like records, switch expressions, and we're going to see them on the presentations.
Language feature, and then a bunch of other, some non-language features as well, like GDC and stuff.
Yep.
Right. Awesome. So we did this, and why we start with Maven is because when you use an IDE, your IDEs typically launch their projects out of your build tools, such as Maven or Gradle, and you use the POM file or the build.gradle file. And that is your best starting point when you're converting, let's say, a corporate project into a more modern version of Java. The first thing you do is you make your changes in the POM file, and then you refresh or re-import that POM, and your module gets reset in IntelliJ by itself. If you were to go directly to IntelliJ and change the version numbers, you will notice that the next time you reload your project, it goes back to the old Java version, which is not ideal. So that's a pain point that a lot of developers face, but this is the shortcut to solve that problem. So that's something useful for you to know, for us to have figured out, painfully so, but now you get it for free.
And how can I ensure that my project is now using 22?
Yes, that's a great question. So let's take a look. I just hit the refresh button on the Maven import. So if I now go to the module settings on here, and these are the curveballs he throws at me. I was not prepared for this. This was not a part of the script. Okay, notice that now it says Project SDK 22. And let me just show you a quick demo of if I were to convert this to, let us say, 8, which I don't seem to have for some reason. So let me go to 17. You will notice it says below that this is imported as a Maven project. And the next time I reload it, it's going to lose all my settings. So do not do this, right? This should not be your way to approach an upgrade for Java. So just please do remember that. And I'm going to cancel this because I want 22. So we did this. Awesome. So one more change I'd like to make, and I'd like to fix the fix me's as I go along, so they don't bother us later. And the next thing I wanted to quickly share before I hand it over to Rodrigo is more modern versions of Java, you don't require auto-boxing. So you've got to get rid of declaring or casting an integer with a new integer object. So you get, in fact, IntelliJ complains about it. And if you hover over, it does show you that integer of int is actually deprecated from version 9, and it'll be removed in some more, I guess, in a more modern version of Java than 22. So it's going to come, be prepared, and the best way to fix it is if you use your IDE, Option Enter or Alt Enter is your friend, and it basically gets rid of whatever you don't need. And in this case, it's simple enough, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete all of this extraneous code, mark it as 0. So this is the new, a better syntax for you to declare integers, even though they are objects, you can declare them directly with values. They're auto-boxed for you. With that, Rodrigo.
Oh, you forgot one over there.
Oh, the null pointer.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Not so fast.
I guess one of the first things we want to show is a helpful null pointer exception, but I've already converted my code to, I guess, Java 22, but I'm just going to show you how the null pointer looks like with this more modern version of the code.
Yes, the reason is until this, I think that's Java 14, the null pointer exceptions. Every developer, you get a null pointer. I think that everybody here had a null pointer. I hope so, or you're not Java developers. But you would see something like null pointer exception at line 10.
Is that
and that's
readable? Is it visible?
Right? So you wouldn't know what caused, especially if you have like, a list dot get one dot get person get name, right? So you would have a null pointer, have no idea where the null pointer happened. Modern version of Java from 14 on, it's gonna show exactly what that happened. So if you have a null pointer, see the message says cannot invoke string.length because conf session speaker.
Oh, sorry.
First name is no. So you can see exactly where the null pointer is happening. So that makes it more accessible and make it easier, especially if you're a new developer, right? Looking at Java, that makes it much easier for you to understand what's going on.
There you go. It's a very helpful feature, and we're now happy with null pointers, finally. Okay, I am going to actually comment this out because I don't need to do this anymore. With that, Rodrigo, you want to take over? I'll still code. You can talk.
All right, so what's next? Let's see if fix one. All right, so one of the features we're going to talk about is var. So you look here, you see you have a map, a string integer, shirts, and then you have a method that's going to return this map. When it's clear for you what is that about, you can replace the declaration. Instead of putting a map, string integer, so with the type, you can substitute that by a var, right? So a var is kind of type, right? Can represent anything, but the IDE needs to be able to know in compile time what that is about, right?
What
so
the type is.
Perfect, thank you. So you can substitute it, like if you have a string or you have an integer, you have a map, whatever it is, you can substitute by a var, right? There's a few caveats here. Like if you look, line 55.
Why don't the audience try this out? Okay, how do I replace this?
Good.
This time I threw the curveball.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone help me out? What do I put here? Can I do something here? Var?
All right.
That would not be good. Var.
Yeah. So we see that. Yeah. Why? because the IDE cannot infer what type it is.
It's
right?
not just the IDE, even the compiler will have the same problem.
Thank you. You're right. So it needs to be able to infer in compile time what is the type. So we're saying it's null, null can be anything, so it doesn't work. How do we fix that?
How do we fix it? Delegation. He asked me, I ask you. All right, how do we fix this? Put it back. I like that answer. I love it.
That's a way, all right? That's a way.
Okay, so there are multiple ways to.
Maybe so the official name for var is local type inference.
Yes.
So inferencing the type. Like
How do I inference the type here? I knew that it was a map. Perfect. Yes. So mix them together and we're good? Awesome answer. Now, what I wanted to tell you is that is the right answer, and there are multiple ways to get to that answer. I just wanted you to know. One is the old-fashioned way of us going and doing all this and then deleting, or be nicer and use IntelliJ. And why is this not working? Why are my shortcuts not working? So IntelliJ allows me to join two lines, and I'm just going to show it without the shortcut. I use Control-Shift-J. It works both on a Mac and a Windows. And if I were to do that, it actually merges two lines together. It's an awesome feature. Use this. It's very useful, right?
All right.
So this.
So here's it. We use var, and again, you need to be able to infer the type. Is there any other benefit in using var? No. Maybe sometimes makes the code clear, right? Easy to read, but there are no performance boost on it, right? It's going to have the same performance, and
The one thing I would like to add, though, when you use vars, be kind. Write decent names. Naming is hard, and when you use vars, it makes it extremely hard for the next developer who's reading your code. So code is read more often than it is written, so be nice to the next developer. Yes, please. That is a good question. In fact, we just replaced a generic with a var. And a generic is something that is more at the compile time anyways, so yes, we just did that, so the answer is yes.
right.
Okay, can I take over the next one?
Moving on.
Okay, so here's where we go back to our cheat sheet, which should be reduced now. We've gotten rid of a few fix me's. So I'm going to pick the next fix me, which I actually like quite a bit. And this is where I was talking to you about, how there's a payment processing, and then we have different kinds of cards, and they have different commissions. So here we see that we have an American Express card, a Visa card, a MasterCard, and PayPal for all, And this is an exhaustive switch case. That's why you don't see any other defaults in here. This is an enum that we use. It's called payment type. And the payment type enum has exactly 4 values. And I use all 4 values, so there's no need for me to have a default in there. That's something useful to know. So anyways, here I am, and here's my code. And I shouldn't be kicking this, I'm sorry. We have all this code, and I'm going to use some cheats here. Don't mind me, and I'll even share how I do these cheats. I don't want to type too much. I already embarrass myself by bad typing. So I'm going to reduce that embarrassment and just use live templates here. Live templates, for those of you who don't know, allows you to quickly copy-paste code that already exists in your IDE. So we're going to show you that.
How many of you did forget eventually to add a break on a switch statement? Good.
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 That was my experience.
Good to know. Good to know,
so
because we're going to learn that there are better ways now.
All right, so I've just typed very quickly while he was engaging you. You didn't look at the screen, so you didn't know what happened. So instead of me creating a switch case, stepping out of my thought process, and then going into the switch case and making some changes and adding the processing fee as I go along, here I have what is called a switch expression, where I have the processing fee, and my switch case actually returns a value to me. In this case, I do a processing fee plus equal to, and there's a switch expression, which I get the payment type, and based upon it being Amex, Visa, MasterCard, or PayPal, I'm just returning a value and no breaks, because it's actually yielding a value back to be processed. And this code is much more simpler to read and easier to digest. So you're helping the next developer who's looking at your code. Any questions on this one?
I have a question.
I knew this was going to happen.
What if I have a more complex return There are many lines.
We got to negotiate how we do this curveballs because this is getting too much. But okay, the question is, what if I have more complicated a statement? Maybe there's more calculation involved when I'm getting the processing fee. How do I handle that? That's a good question. And the answer is, you can use a complex expression here as long as it yields a value back at the end, right? So you can create a complex statement, add a yield to it, and then it returns back the same value.
Yeah, can you show?
Can I show? Okay.
I think it's interesting.
I'm more worried about the time constraint. We have a few items to cover, but I will quickly, if you promise me that there are no more curveballs.
No promises.
Okay, so I'm just going to.
Perfect.
It's good? Okay, so that's one way to do it.
And just remember that we're using this word yields. So when you have a more complex, you need to use the yield to return the value from the switch.
So you can either use an arrow syntax as we did, or you have a complex expression. Just remember to yield back a value at the end of it, right? And there are no breaks in this. So one statement gets executed and it returns a value. It doesn't go to the next statement. So just be aware of that. Awesome.
Right. Let's move on.
So the next fixed we are going to look at is one I like quite a bit, but he gets to do it.
All right, string templates. Sometime in our code, we're going to see the code, and we're using all these to format the code. So we're going to see the quotes and /n to line breaks and everything. And you're trying to make a magic to make the code format the way you want. I've seen this when maybe you're writing some really complex SQL queries and you have like a huge one, and then the code was very hard to read, right? You have all the quotes, and then if you need to...
Copy paste it into a SQL editor. How do you do that?
Yes, and it's terrible. And then you're going to run the code and it's going to say, oh, something is not right, and then you need to start debugging line by line to try to find out.
Then you create Jira tickets, and that's where developer souls go to die. Oop, no one from Jira here, right?
All right, so we have this new feature, text blocks, where we can replace that by a much more friendly string.
I'm going to keep this so we have a reference to how the new code looks
Makes
better
sense.
than this. So,
Like that. So we can replace the same. And we're going to see here, that's the same thing, same code using string templates. So you're going to see that's slightly different. We have, instead of 2 quotes as a string, we have 3 quotes to start and end. This code is the same thing. It's much more readable than the previous one.
and there's no /n's, no /t's, no pluses. All you do is you begin a triple quote and you end a triple quote, and that's all you need. Now, Rodrigo,
And it's even
how will this be printed out?
perfect. So that's even better because string templates, they keep the indentation, right? So if you are trying, I don't know, to create a YAML file, right, where spaces are
Who here hates YAML?
good, right? So we don't want to put like the whole AWS down like it happened. Oh, should we say that? But this keeps the formatting, keeps everything, every space, so you don't need to worry about it. The way you see is what you get when that prints out. So if you get a string, no matter how it is, if you're going to print it out a string, it's going to just ignore all the formatting, all the indentation. With string templates, that does not happen.
Yeah, so the one catch, one thing, the easiest way to remember it is look at the end of the triple quotes, and wherever it is your origin point. So your origin point in this case is right here. So whatever is on this line prints the same. Whatever is indented further gets printed with the indentations. That's how string templates work.
So this is all you have to do, just create, use string within.
That's it.
Triple, double quotes, that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Use your template.
Yep.
Yes. There are more templates we'll talk about, but this is the beginning. This is a text block template. We'll talk about string templates later, but there's some caveats associated with that.
This is all in 41.
No, this has been there for a very long time.
This is in
I mean, which was
14, maybe, text blocks?
14 or 15, I can't remember.
Yeah.
14 or 15, yes. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Can you do, we will get to that now.
Hold that question.
Hold that question.
Yes.
We will get there.
All right. And the other example, it's the same text. Is gonna.
Now, this is slightly different
Yep.
because it starts the indentation from the first line itself.
Perfect.
So, Rodrigo? while
and
you
we're going to see that we can
while you
also replace.
while you sort of confuse the audience, I'm going to go type this up.
And we can see that this one we're going to also replace with text blocks, and we're going to note the difference where the end triple quotes are. So you see the final triple quotes, they represent where it ends, right? Well, the format in the beginning of the line, so you see the code is pushed. So that's exactly what you're going to see. If you print the text, that's exactly what you're going to see.
This is your origin point. This is your origin point, and so the text is going to print with this much amount of spacing. So welcome will have 1 tab, and I guess the schedule will have 2 tabs.
Again,
That's how it works.
there's no like performance difference, but reading code becomes much easier using text blocks than the previous example that we have seen.
Awesome. Any questions about text blocks that we covered so far?
Does the placement of the beginning quotes matter at all?
It doesn't, but the recommendation is to put it on a new line just for being kind to the next developer who's looking at your code, right? I stress upon this because we all work in corporations and it's not just us looking at the code. So make it at least convenient for the next person to know where it begins, where it ends. Because there is, thus far, IDEs don't support some sort of a, I guess, linkage between where the code starts and where the code ends. For example, when I do it on a curly brace, I know where the curly brace ends. I don't get that with the triple quotes yet, right? So be kind. Please. It is a regular string object. There is no difference.
Right.
Awesome.
Moving on.
All right. I spoke a bit, so do you want to take the next one too?
What we have next?
Or you want me to try this?
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay. This one is a bit lengthy, so which I was trying to avoid.
We talk together.
Pass it on to, you know. Anyways, so here we have the raffle, and it's a huge method. And those of us who work in corporate worlds know these do exist. We have a 100-line method, 200-line method. That's pretty normal in the corporate, and that's what we try to do here. So here we have the raffle winners, and we are allowing attendees, speakers, and vendor sponsors to participate in the raffle. So staff get left out, right? And then we choose 3 random winners. I use thread local random here. And then we pick random integers out of the list we created, and we extract those values from the list, and that's how we get our winners, right? So 3 different random integers were chosen. So if the allowed person was an attendee, then we declare that they are an attendee. If they are speakers, so on. So we're figuring out whether they are attendees or speakers or vendor sponsors. And then once we find the winners, what we then do is we print out, if the winner is an attendee, we print their payment type. If the winner is a speaker, we print their shirt size. And if the winner is a vendor sponsor, we print their booth number. We just had to build up some logic, so we did this. Now, this code is very verbose. It's a lot of matter just to find out what kind of an attendee this person, what kind of attendee this person is, and what their associated whatever property is. So there's a better way to do this.
Yes, and one thing that I never understood as a Java developer, first time I look at something like this, we have speaker equals, not here in this case, but if allowed person instance of speaker, and then next line, your speaker.
Casting it to a speaker. Because your allowed person is a generic, I guess, object.
Yeah, but then, right, so we already know that, it's already proven that it's a speaker. Why do I need to specifically cast again? So that makes the code really hard to read.
Absolutely. And towards the end, if the allowed person was not found, i.e. a staff person snuck in and put their name into the list and they got selected, we're throwing an exception, right? So we are also covering that use case. Awesome. So once again, what I intend to do is to comment this code out so we can retain it for impact. And then let's go engage the audience while I type.
All right, so let's see how that new code is going to look like.
So I just magically typed up a lot of code while Rodrigo was engaging you.
Fast typer.
And this is the new syntax. Instead of all that if block, instead of us having to first find out what kind of, I guess, allowed person this is, and then casting them into the role, we simply have a case statement. And here we use what is called pattern matching. Pattern matching instance of, and that, Rodrigo, can you explain that?
I think, and you're going to see that we're using here the arrow again, the expression again, but we are doing the switch. And when we find that it's attendee, we are already declaring attendee local variable, and we can use that in the arrow function. So no need to explicitly cast anymore. It's already there for you to use.
It's auto-casted. And is it okay if I repeat the word attendee over here?
Yeah.
Okay. Why is that the case?
Is it?
Okay. That was my curveball. Maybe I should not do that. Okay. So the variables here are flow scoped. So they're limited to the expression that you are in, so you can reuse the variable on multiple lines and it works fine. That is something useful to know. If you have situations like that, you can reuse a variable, right? They're called flow scope variables. They're limited to the case statement that you are currently working on.
But please don't. Please don't.
Avoid doing that. Anyways, so that is the new code, and I have no idea why I'm seeing so many squigglies, but I'm sure it's because of it can be replaced with a template, which we will cover later because there was a question about that. So we will get back to it. Awesome.
All right.
Let me just go unfix this.
4 is done. 5. One of our favorites.
Yes,
Number 5.
go for it. Number 5.
Records. Is it?
Number 5. What is it? Okay, number 5 seems to be
Record. All right.
records.
Who of you are using records? Anyone using records already? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Mostly or not. So records, they became very popular on Java 17 when they were released. Everybody was talking about records and wanted to use records. And know that many of you probably using Lombok to generate getters and setters and everything because there was no easy way to do that. I know that our IDE can do that, can cover that, but records can also be very helpful in this scenario. So they will be like a final class. A records is going to be, when it's compiled, it's going to be a final class. Is that final, completely final, unmodified?
No, it is a shallow finality or shallow immutability in that whatever you declare in a record cannot be readdressed.
Okay, so
right?
you mean
Which is a very dangerous caveat because if you were to put any kind of containers in there, such as a collection, a list, you have to be careful. Those are not immutable themselves. So you cannot redeclare a list or a collection, but the values within that can be modified. So please be aware of this.
Oh, perfect. So in this case, records, they do not have a setter, right? They are final.
They're immutable.
They're immutable. They cannot be changed. So you need to, on the constructor, you need to define your records. You also don't need anymore to have the getter, the equals, the hash codes on everything because record is going to generate all of this boilerplate code for you.
So this huge piece of code is now, while Rodrigo engages and impresses you and confuses you, I am going to type up a new record.
So you see, this class has, we're declaring, you have the constructor, getters, and setters, and toStrings, a lot of code that doesn't have any business value here, right? But we still have to type everything. So replacing that with our records, it's going to be simple, and that's all we need. This one line of code.
Ignore the 2 problems. This is part of the fix me. There are 3 parts to this fix me. So just why don't you explain the rest of the code?
Right. So everything here on this record is the same code as we see in the class. Right?
So this exactly replicates every bit of behavior that you see up here and then some. So I don't have an equals and a hash code method here. They're covered in the records. Right? You get getters, you get setters. You don't get setters.
You don't get setter. One caveat, so you don't have setters and you don't have the traditional getter. So instead of saying, what's the property name? Get session abstract, it's just session abstract, open close parentheses, right? If there was, and that's all you're gonna see on a record.
It'll look something like this. That's the change. So there's no get prefix for getter methods because there is no setter. So the only method you have is the getter method. So it's now called, just the name of the variable is the same as the method name. And I believe they're called components. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So now let's go address the 2 related problems, which is the other parts of our fix me. So we go 5b. Oh, there are 3 parts to this fix me, Rodrigo. You got a lot of work.
Replace a record getter, but applicate to list instead of collectors. Okay.
So,
Oh, yes. So here we just say we're going to replace. There is no get anymore.
audience, help me out here. What do I do? Yes, simple. Okay, so we use a method reference with a record, just to show you how readable this code is and still works fine. And the other benefit, while we get here, is now we have a shortcut method on collections in the stream, and instead of doing a collectors to to list, we could simply do a to list, correct? Just be aware that when you do this, it does produce an unmodifiable list. So just be aware of that. It's a difference in behavior compared to most other operations. So just as long as you're aware of it, it works great.
Perfect. The same thing if we go to...
This should be easy. Even I can do this.
All right.
Awesome. So here we're showing you that you can still call a method in this regular old-fashioned way with a dot syntax as you would in the past. And you can use method references. You could use it in lambdas. It works with everything. It works normally. Right, so those are the two fixed me's. There is apparently a third fixed me, Rodrigo. You got more work.
One?
You got more work.
All right, we have the get.
This was the fake method we created to demonstrate a null pointer exception, and we were using the first name, which was null. But now we have a get main speaker, which again we can replace. Can anyone in the audience help me out here? Will that work? Good? Awesome.
Perfect.
All right.
So don't use Lombok, use records.
One thing about the records that you cannot use it for entities.
You can, because they are final,
Yeah,
right?
they are final.
Oh, they're
You cannot
final.
use records for entities.
It is kind of. Okay, one more thing we wanted to add while we're on the topic of records is since Java 17, I believe, it's possible to create what's called local records. So you can create a record within your method and use it, and it's available for that method body. So that's kind of useful because sometimes you just want a holder object, and Java doesn't really have tuples or tuples, I don't know how you call it, and records do serve as an efficient mechanism to hold instant objects for you. So be aware of that. Awesome.
Good. Moving on.
Moving on, my
Six.
favorite feature. Okay, so my favorite feature is something we'll talk about, but this is a conundrum several of you must have faced when you were probably writing your classes and inheriting it. So let's go and take a look at this real quick. So I don't know if you remember the picture. I'll just go back to the picture real quick. We have attendees, we have speakers, we have staff, and we have vendor sponsors. And attendees can further have a classification of alumnus, right? And then speakers you cannot have any types of speakers, there are only speakers. And then staff, I should stop kicking this, shouldn't I? Okay, staff can be enhanced in the future to be admin, security, front desk, or whatever, right? So we had options, but we have not created these classes yet. But we want that extensibility in the future. What if evil me decides to go and add a hacker to the staff? There is no way to prevent in Java something from being extended further and by a bad actor, right? You either can make your class final and restrict it to no further extension, or you can extend it to any object, you leave it open. There was no midway. And now Java offers you, since I believe Java 15, if I'm not mistaken,
15, 16,
something called a sealed hierarchy. A sealed hierarchy sits between having a complete final and a complete open Java, where you have some flexibility that you permit, and only that portion of your code is allowed to extend. Okay, so let's take a quick look. Here I have my allowed person class, which has several classes in it. So I have allowed person, and I'm going to minimize this so you can see other classes. I got attendee, I got alumnus, which is an extension of attendee. I don't know if you remember the picture. I got speaker, no further extensions allowed. I got staff, which we will extend in the future, but we don't know how much we will extend this. And then we have vendor sponsors. So the easiest way to fix this is to start with, I guess, allowed person. Instead of it being a class, we will add a new keyword in front of it called sealed class. So we're now sealing this class where it is no longer final or open, it's somewhere in between. And what we then do is we say we permit, what do we permit? We permit a few classes. And let me just minimize this so I can see more of the permissions. I can permit an attendee. What else should I permit? Should I permit a speaker? Yes?
Speaker.
What else can I permit? Can I permit a vendor sponsor? Do I get a yes? Do I permit speaker, staff? And how about invalid attendee or hacker? Should I permit that? No? Sense and sensibility tells me not to do this, so I'm not going to do it. Okay, so that fixes some of our problems where I guess I wrote the wrong syntax, which is why it's complaining. So this solves creating a sealed class where I'm only allowing attendee, speaker, vendor, sponsor, and staff. Of course, they're still going to complain when we'll take a look at the complaints, but this is the sealed class itself declaring who's allowed to extend from it.
Good. Now you have much more control over this extensibility. It's up to you, developer, to decide who can extend this class, who will have access to this class.
Correct. So for the audience, I have a quick question. What do you think I should do here to allow attendee to extend from allowed person, because it itself has a further hierarchy of alumnus? Any suggestions? Should I leave it an open class? Should I make it a final class? Should I make it a sealed class? What do you all think? Sealed class? Okay, how would I seal it? What should I do? Okay, make it a sealed class. Okay, I'm going totally based upon your input because there are multiple ways to solve this. I want your input to know what you're thinking. And then what do I do? Good. And now that portion is fixed. So we now fixed one sealed hierarchy for attendees. What do we do with speaker? So we can actually mark this as final. Good. Good. What do we do with staff? Because staff can be extended in the future. We don't know what is going to happen. What do I do? Can I mark it final? Should I mark it sealed? Speaker. Make it non-sealed. So somehow unseal it, so in the future something can be done with it, right? And that I can unseal by making this class a non-sealed class. So that's another option for you. How about vendor sponsor? What do I do with them? Final? Awesome. That was a trick question though. Okay. So just to let you know, this is the different kinds of things you can do with a sealed class. You can make a class final, you can make a class non-sealed or open again, or you can mark it as, I guess, sealed itself. Those are your three hierarchies. Now, if you were to use a sealed interface, you cannot leave it as an open class because it is a part of a permission hierarchy. Yes? So it has to be declared as coming back into the open. There is no implicit behavior where it is, you mark it as something. You may have forgotten that syntax. You may have forgotten to declare it as something, right? So this gives you the intentionality that you are opening up the class back again. No problem. That's a great question though. If you were to use interfaces, a sealed interface, you can also seal an interface. In that case, you can also use records as an extension. That's a super cool feature. Awesome. And I'm going to comment this code out.
Let's run.
Okay. I know we should speed up. We are out of time.
All right, so moving on to 7.
I have a question. So let's say there are like a long hierarchy of the classes, right?
Yes.
So instead of getting like all this that permits and all the classes there, right?
Yeah.
Can we do something like some interface marker or then extend other classes with that and then provide that interface there?
Is it technically possible? Yes. But it's questionable as to why you're doing that because you're going back and reopening the class for further extension, right? So it's questionable behavior when you do that, but is it technically possible? Yes. Awesome. All right, so fix me, please.
Moving on, so we're moving. Fix me 7.
Fix me 7,
please.
sorry.
7.
All right, so we have limited time, so let's not throw any curveballs at each other.
All right. So the same way we've seen before, if object ends up session and then we are casting, we see that we can remove the explicit casting. Much easier, make the code more readable.
Okay. So I'm just going to comment out this whole whopping section where I'm first doing an instance of check And then I'm getting the title and speaker and the message, and I'm printing them out. So this goes away. And let me, once again, while you engage the audience.
Fast typer. Okay, so you see here, we are deconstructing the record. So the record we saw, the session has title. The second property, I don't remember what was.
Yeah, I think it was, I don't even remember what the second property
we're
was.
deconstructing with a title, abstract, and main speaker moderator. So we are deconstructing the object here, and we can use it without having to casting and creating other objects down here. So we can deconstruct the record. We say, oh, the session record has all these variables, and they are ready for you to use within this if block. Right?
So take an impact on here, right? Instead of us operating on the session instance, we are deconstructing it, getting its components, and using those components in our method, which is super cool, right? This is an amazing feature because it has reduced the amount of code you have to write. Can I improve this further?
Yeah, and do we need the...
Do we need the abstract? I mean, there is something called an abstract here. I call it X. Do I even need this? No, Billy says no. Billy doesn't like abstract. So what if I just start doing this? Right? So unused local variables can be declared with an underscore now, which is you implying to the developer or the person reading your code that you don't need that value anymore. That's new and offered in Java 22. So it's awesome. It's amazing. Try it out.
Cool.
Awesome. So we move on quickly. I guess the next three we want to cover as quick as we can.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have 5 minutes.
So this comes back to the question on the interpolation. So let's start. We'll do one without the interpolation first. Go ahead, Rodrigo.
All right. So we have here string templates. When you can pretty much, instead of doing like a string builder or something, you have this template where you can substitute your code. So the str is the most basic string template. So what is we're going to replace this
Yes,
code?
we will replace this code where the shirt sizes are being calculated with a string template. Now, before we do this, a little bit of the caveat, and we did start with this as to preview features. As with any other preview feature, it is possible for some API to get dropped or replaced in the next version of Java. So until Java 22, and only in Java 22, do we have string templates as they exist today. So 23 onwards may have a different flavor. You've been warned. Your mileage may vary. But if you're using Java 22 and only 22, you have this feature.
You're safe. Yeah.
Did I tell you it is only in Java 22?
Yeah. And we learned about this week. Right?
Yes. So this is like curveballs coming from outside as well.
Right. So you see that
So
we are just replacing the previous statement. So we're using here the string template of the shirt size, and then we're getting the value of shirt size and passing to it. So we are replacing in this template, and this is a processor. Is this the only one you can do it?
There are more. There are more. So let's look at 2 more ways of doing this. Very quickly, I know we're running out of time, so I want to show you the raw pattern. Go ahead, Rodrigo. Okay. So what are we doing here? In the previous example, we saw that we had interpolation, and we use it on variables that existed in the code. Not only that, you can also call methods, and we'll take a look at how you can invoke methods in the string template. The most unfortunate thing is this feature is only available in Java 22. It is not going to come back in the 23, so be aware of that. So enjoy it while it lasts. A newer format will come out in a later version of Java, so be prepared. Okay. And of course, I need to import this. So this is a very good indicator. I want to use the string template raw. Okay.
Right.
You want to explain this?
Right.
I think it's self-explanatory. Anyone not understand what's going on the screen, I can actually call methods on my raw templates. The last one, which is probably quite used by a lot of us developers, and it's sometimes magic when we have to print objects out. And I'm going to quickly show you the output. If you wanted to print something like this, what do we do in Java? This code is written in Java, so what do we do? Can anyone help me? Write some really ugly code. Thank you. We use a lot of right pad, left pad, and write some real ugly code. And let's go take a look at that real ugly code. And I'm a master of ugly code. Okay. Does anyone recognize doing things like this and feeling guilt and shame afterwards? I do. Okay, so here we are. We create a string utils right pad. We right pad it for some amount, 50 characters. And we have 50 characters. I can calculate this. If I were to just do this, it is 50 characters. Rodrigo, you want to talk about it while I magically change the code?
No, there go the fast typer. All right, so let's replace this with another Spring template that's only available on Java 22 again. So the FMT templates. And we're going to replace all this code for something more readable. And there we are.
Much more neater version of code. I am not embarrassed by this. And I can sleep at night after I write this code. Here, we actually use physical spacing, just like we did in our text blocks. And I've written code using a formatter, which is currently not imported. My bad, let me just import it. And my formatter is picking up on my text block syntax and replacing and interpolating values as we go, which is awesome.
Ugly code, but more readable.
Right? These are all available. And in case you want references to this, this code is available on GitHub. Please do check with us after this session. We can give you the link. And the Java 22 code already exists, so you don't have to go manually change all these things. The code already exists in GitHub. Okay? So we're just letting you know that the references exist. So with that,
we're done.
I have one final thing, Rodrigo. Sorry. I do need to throw a curveball at you. I got to get back. So one last thing I want you to do. How do I fix this method?
Oh, do we need public static void main string args?
Do we really need this? So what do we do in Java? Unless we absolutely need string args, what do we do in Java is this. And this is how we teach the next generation of kids that Java is actually an easy entry point, right? Java is cool. And of course, when you do that, please don't forget to update your Java docs. All right, with that,
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.